the way I like to socialize it is think about moving to a new community and having an ombudsman, someone that is there to walk you through all the intricacies of locating in that community. Where are my kids going to go to school? Is this a safe community? What's like the local food scene? Can I get in and out of the city? Like all of those elements are not readily available through a Google search, right?
Welcome to Brew Talks. I'm Steve Stroud. I'm the president and CEO of Roswell, Inc. We're the economic development organization serving the city of Roswell.
I'm Andy Williams, president and CEO of Visit Roswell, the official destination marketing organization for the city of Roswell. And we've got a special guest with us today, Samir Abdullahi from Select Fulton. This is a partnership that works great between Visit Roswell, Roswell, Inc., and Select Fulton, one of the many moving parts of economic development throughout Fulton County. And it's going to be a very informative and enlightening conversation today with Samir. So great to have you on.
Absolutely.
Pleased to be back here. Well, it's exciting to come up to Roswell and see all the great things happening, not only in this office, but downtown as well. So
it is exciting. And, you know, one of the things we talk about a lot is collaboration. And, you know, people get confused, like, why would Fulton County be doing economic development? We got economic developers in Roswell and Alpharetta and the state. But you could share that and enlighten the audience, especially because what we do is individual organizations all pull for the same common goal and the same common cause. So we work a lot together. You're on our board. We appreciate that and your service there. Talk to us a little bit about the role of Select Fulton and how we partner, because it's unique.
yeah, I've learned as a civil servant, you're not allowed to say nuance because people don't like
Nuance.
They don't like getting confused on the details. But you got to remember, right? The state, the county, localities, they each maintain separate lanes of public service. So at the state, right, they're managing larger imaginations, emergency management, EPA, and the things like that. At a local level or the county level, we be managing things like public safety and court systems, elections. At the local level, you guys are controlling public safety, so police and fire and planning and zoning. So there are different lanes that each one of these governmental units control, and each is important to kind of the success of economic development. And what does that really mean? I mean, that means jobs, that means investments, that means new amenities, that means greater things for communities, not only in terms of the communities that are already there, but how are you planning for future communities? And that's how we try to think about economic development, obviously very much as a team sport. So we're not going to dictate upon high on how communities should be shaped. I mean, this is America. The free market dictates that a lot. But we do want to kind of put the guardrails in of how do we evolve our communities. And what we've been very blessed here in Fulton County to have 15 distinct cities, including the city of Roswell, that have created kind of curated products of what the city vision is, what those communities are, why people want to invest in those communities. And so at the county, we really just work to help support what those city visions are. Given the fact that we have a larger altitude, we get in larger conversations. We want to make sure we're taking that localized messaging to all those big players, and they can make the decision as what's the best place for them to invest.
Well, on that note, let's talk about how you actually help those different municipalities based on what their needs are. Because, the big sexy stuff, for example, you mentioned this several times, might be the data centers. Data center not necessarily is going to work in Roswell as it would in South Fulton, for example. So what does your day-to-day look like with how you're working with those respective communities based on what the need is within those areas?
Sure. Well, luckily no one's accused me of saying, well, you pick friends as to where some companies should go versus others. I really don't have that much power. They gave me a parking spot downtown. That's as much power as I actually have. Again, that's what we're trying to provide on the upfront side. The way I like to socialize it is think about moving to a new community and having an ombudsman, someone that is there to walk you through all the intricacies of locating in that community. Where are my kids going to go to school? Is this a safe community? What's like the local food scene? Can I get in and out of the city? Like all of those elements are not readily available through a Google search, right? And so having someone on the commercial or the business side of things that can help companies make those very mission-critical business decisions as to where they should locate, where they should invest, based on our understanding of communities, where they want to be in the future. That's really what we're working to do. So the easy part is kind of the socializing as to this makes sense or this may not make sense. But some of the more gritty work is that on the ground identifying sites, identifying buildings that are available or might be coming on the market that aren't available in some of these big real estate data sets. What are some of the tools and resources? What's the local ecosystem that we can tap into? It's some of that more gritty work that is the traditional economic development, but I think the broader aspect that we provide value to, and again, it's only based on how well our cities are engaging us and leaning into us, and Roswell does such a good job in that we can be helpful in sharing those stories and help orient them to where they can be successful.
Sure.
Again, you've heard me say this before. We're very blessed here in Metro Atlanta that we don't have to work very hard to entice companies to come here. There's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
We're
Absolutely.
a low-cost option. We're a business-friendly community and a growing population. Those are very attractive to companies. It's more of how do we convert on the right opportunities.
That's
so
right.
out of that entire piece of segment of things that we're looking at, what are the 2 to 3 that we actually want to lean into and make a part of our future community? We're very lucky to be in that position here in Atlanta and Roswell.
Well, we are, and I've heard you say in multiple speeches and presentations, we're the front door for Georgia.
Yeah.
And Fulton County is the front door. Roswell is in Fulton County. That's not going to change, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what we see is you all are receiving those opportunities from the county, from the state, working together with site selectors, and you're opening the door. So we've got this great football team with all different positions in the county, and you're quarterbacking to say, hey, this makes sense because Roswell has this, or College Park has that. Here, take a look at it. We'll bring our team together. And I think that's where the collaboration that I most appreciate is that we're working together. Because if it's Kathy Cook and Alpharetta, we're working with Kathy and you to make sure they land in Fulton County, because it's a win-win for everybody. Talk to us a little bit about that window, that front door. Obviously, Hartsfield is a big portion of that. Georgia 400 is big, and it's getting bigger as far as our front door, right, for North Fulton. But you rolled out some numbers that I think blew everybody away recently.
Yeah. It's funny that some people think the United States should just be the kind of more of a city-state kind of system versus states, because metro areas really are the drivers of both population and economic development. So we're one of those in terms of being here in Metro Atlanta. Metro Atlanta now is the 6th largest metro in the United States, bigger than Philadelphia, bigger than D.C.
Yeah.
So it's so fun. Again, I came here. My cutoff for whether you're an Atlanta resident or not or native is if you came before the Olympics in '96, you're native. You remember what Atlanta was like. Roswell was the suburbs, and this was out here, before Georgia 400 and some of those other things. And now to see how the city has grown and the metro area, and Roswell's been a part of that. To being one of the big boys in the big class. You're the largest cities in the United States. That's larger than many countries globally. So we've got that advantage, and the nice part is we're not slowing down. We're still in the top 5 fastest growing metropolitan communities in the United States.
Wow, that's amazing.
So again, being one of the larger communities, so you have a large talent pool, a lot of opportunities. What people love about being, I think, in Roswell and other places is you can be whoever you want to be. This is not a predetermined town. You come in from whatever you were.
That's right.
To try to create your success here, and there are not a lot of those barriers to entry. So the fact that we're growing to be such a large metro area, and then if you take that kind of whole metro area, Fulton County represents 1 in 3 jobs and 50% of all wages generated. And so, we like to think of Cobb County, Gwinnett County, DeKalb County, same as Fulton. There are 1 million people in terms of population. But in terms of economic intensity, this is why everyone's coming down 75, 85, 400 to come and work and be a part of city of Roswell and Fulton County. And so we're very lucky to be that economic engine. But we don't need to be exclusive to it. We're happy to have those stay within the county or bleed just outside the county, because again, we benefit from things that are created just right outside of our communities.
That's right.
And they help to tell the story of what is possible and what could be the future and lessons learned, and we see communities take that on. It's similar, again, I made fun about the city-state movement, but America is a federalist system. It's made up of a bunch of states. This is how we got kind of our healthcare plan is they did it out in Massachusetts to test it, and then we decided to adopt it as a nation. I think in Fulton County we have that same thing where we can see cities doing different things learning from what their experiences are and
right.
try to take those best practices and distribute those across all of Fulton County. Roswell has led in that effort. Every other city here in North Fulton has really tried to copy and be a part of the Canton Street movement.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, that is the North Star for everybody. And
Right.
so Roswell's had such a great history and legacy in building that out, of having an identity of community that other communities, newer communities in North Fulton are still working on building out. And it's exciting to work with you guys on kind of this next phase of building out Canton Street, looking at Holcomb Bridge and looking at East Roswell.
What that
Just
looks
so
like.
many,
Yes.
so many different opportunities.
Sure.
Again, if you look at the macro where we're continuing to grow, it's up to the city to decide how much of that opportunity do you want to actually convert on.
That's right.
Well, let's talk about, speaking of some of those other communities, you mentioned Philadelphia and some of the ones that we've passed as far
DC.
as population size and things of that nature. But when you position, Fulton County, whether you're working an inbound lead or you're going out and more aggressively pursuing a lead, maybe it's a headquarter relocation, a big business expansion, how do you position Fulton County compared to a Cook County, compared to a DC, a Houston, for example? What does that look like when you're selling against those?
So first, it's kind of breaking down the perceptions of things. We live here. We know it's great. That's an easy sell. I can sell to anyone side of the
Cheering
market.
it. Yep.
There are people outside this market that have no perception other than what they've seen on TV.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
almost like an immigrant who comes to the United States and Arnold Schwarzenegger is their vision of what America is. It's a skewed perception of reality a
Yeah,
little bit.
right,
So there
no.
is some of that upfront education that we're having to do. We're the third largest concentration of Fortune 500s outside of New York, maybe California and Texas are tied for second there. So, can we deal with the big boys?
Yes.
Absolutely. The fact that we have such a great, diverse, and skilled labor force here, shout out to our friends and all the other SEC schools.
That's right.
When they graduate, they're all coming to Atlanta
They're
to
staying,
work.
yeah.
We're pulling in that
Staying
pipeline.
in the South.
And that has been the success of some of these other cities like Philadelphia. They do such a good job in retaining their students who graduate out of their undergraduate and graduate schoolings. We do such a good job as well. Between UGA, Georgia Tech, and Emory, we've done such a better job in retaining a lot of these students, which is attractive. So if you can get over those upfront kind of perceptions of things, then
That's
the
right.
next thing is the part that's really attractive and what you talked about, which is the collaboration. The fact that you can meet with the state, the city, the county, the utility company, whatever partner that you needed to make that decision making for the company. You can meet with them in the same day, in the same meeting room, in the same geography. What we hear is that's not the case in a lot of other communities, and that's for historical reasons, whatever the else. So I think culturally, that's what's made us so different, is that collaborative aspect of we all kind of win if some of us win aspect. And the funny part is everyone asks me what's the document or what's the organization behind, I don't need a memorialized document to love thy neighbor, right?
Right.
That's just straightforward. That's what we learn here in the South.
Pick up the phone and call, right? Knock on their door.
So especially for those who are helping companies make these decisions, which are site selectors, they're working hard to get quick information, responsive information. That can be such a huge value add for them. They're not burning a week of the client's money trying to dance around in other communities that won't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out who's in charge, right?
I mean,
leadership is so important.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about elected officials. I'm talking about who in the community is point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, HQ2 is a good reflection of that when Amazon
Yeah.
was shaking their second
Yeah.
headquarters there. All the communities rolled up all of their proposals to the state, and the
Right.
state took one proposal out to Amazon.
That's right.
Well, many other communities weren't able to do that. They went off on their own and promoted outside of the
Yep.
state or outside of the county. So I really think that speaking in one unison voice is not just optically a nice
Right.
thing
Yeah.
from a functional standpoint. It's very respected by site selectors and very useful for
We
companies.
saw that with Mercedes. When Mercedes was looking to get out of New Jersey.
Yeah.
The Fulton County was selected, and it was selected, and it was a win for this whole county, including DeKalb County, including Cobb County. Everybody won in Metro Atlanta. One of the things you said most recently that I just rings in my head over and over in a positive way is you're selling not Fulton County. You're selling when you're out leading and having conversations, whether it's in Austin or California or Denver, you're saying the Metro Atlanta area.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're selling, right?
Yeah.
And anytime you're anywhere in the country traveling, you say, you don't say Roswell. I will say Roswell, but people go Roswell. Like New Mexico? No, Roswell, Georgia. Metro Atlanta.
Yeah.
We're in Fulton County, same county as the city of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Ah, I got you. Atlanta. That's the region you're really selling.
Yeah.
And I want to talk, I recently saw a presentation and I want to talk about the value of airport expansion. And I'm not talking about Hartsville Jackson. You had mentioned, the fact that corporate jets are coming in and out and lost business because of lack of space for corporate jets, for example, and how important that is. Can you kind of elaborate on what the plans are?
I mean, it's one of those, a lot of people don't get caught up in the conversations because it's a lifestyle that not a lot of us get to participate in, including myself. I'm not throwing myself into it.
Or Andy and I.
Throwing myself into that gang. We've got Fulton Executive Airport, which was rebranded from the Charlie Brown Airport to really acknowledge its prominence in the Metro Atlanta region. 75% of our takeoff and landings, and it sits over there by Fulton Industrial Boulevard on the west side of town. So it's in a great area in the sense that there's not a lot of people that it has to fly over versus somewhere like PDK where it stays very active. So I was mentioning that 75% of our takeoff and landings are private jets. Peachtree DeKalb Airport, great airport. More active than us, but a lot of those are single props going up to Chattanooga to play golf.
Right.
I mean, our takeoff and landings are the Tyler Perrys of the world, the Cox Communications, the Arthur Blanks,
UPS.
I mean, so many at Norfolk Southern. There's so many others that are the corporate citizens that help to influence and change communities. I mean, we would not have a great soccer team. We would not have a Mercedes-Benz stadium here, but for people like Arthur Blank. We wouldn't have like Auto Trader and such a great development with Cox Communication, but for or these other Fortune 500. So it's a necessity. But unfortunately, the airport wasn't built for that. It was built for an older generation of single prop general aviation aircraft. And so we're working very intently to modernize that, not only for our own benefits, it's just a strategic asset for the county, but for the benefit of the region. And you mentioned some lost business. We have real world use cases like Norfolk Southern, who's here. Their new headquarters is here because we were able to accommodate their jets. We've got other companies I don't want to name that weren't able to locate here. Yeah. And unfortunately, we're kind of back in that same position. So if you wanted to take space at our executive airport, not happening. And the people in the aviation world knows there's always 100, 150 potential jets out there looking for space. They're very particular on where they want to go. I mean, going all the way out to nowhere, Georgia doesn't really help a corporate team out here locally. Yeah. The benefit is being on and off the plane within 15 minutes to your office or wherever you're trying to go.
Right.
So in terms of location, in terms of like what surround us and our ability to grow, all of that is strong. It's really kind of getting greater support. The county can't do it by itself. Again, even though it's distant from places like Roswell, again, having larger corporate citizens here would benefit Roswell.
Absolutely.
Not only from a residential, but potentially an office standpoint.
All fronts.
So that's why we've taken that kind of on the road. We're making larger investments under the brand Renew the District to really reprime Fulton Industrial. Yeah. It's the largest concentration of industrial in the Southeast, about 55 million square foot, but really connecting that to our executive airport. And what we're saying is future-proofing the airport. Now that we know where it needs to go, how do we put in the elements? A longer runway, greater space, more amenities, more on-site.
More hangars, obviously.
All of that, right, to accommodate the growth, but also to make it, you can put executive airport on the brand, and if it doesn't look like it, then you're not there. Right. So if it's even modest things, we've got autonomous lawnmowers now that we send out on GPS that now go mow the grass regularly. Yeah. New taxiway lights, which we can't appreciate, but when you're landing a $100 million aircraft and trying to taxi at the nighttime, it's nice to know where you're going.
That's
some of those elements. So again, I less think about, try to communicate it to the regular citizen, but more of my concern is what is the experience of the people flying into our executive airport relative to other markets, because it matters.
It's the front door again.
It's a reality.
Yes.
And so we do have to accommodate and be disciplined about it. Again, places like Dallas and others accommodate their billionaires very well. We've got to step up, again, back to the whole Metro Atlanta being the sixth largest metro. We've got to be the big boys in town.
We are now at the table.
This is not a sleepy town anymore. No, pack your bags. That's done. That ship has sailed.
So it's that same train of thought, really. You'd mentioned, obviously, the strengthening of the airport and what that can do for us. What are some of those other, I don't even want to say low-hanging fruit, but if you could have it your way, one or two things that Fulton County could do to strengthen itself, to make ourselves more appealing, what would you snap your fingers and say overnight, this is what I'd want to see improved?
It's funny, the governor mentioned this at his State of the State maybe 2 to 3 years ago. It was pretty surprising to hear him say this, which is housing continues to be almost a crisis matter. And it's not for residents, it's coming up for companies as well.
Sure.
So all these great companies that we recruited, I'll be very honest, in economic development and you're in Georgia, we've done a great job in recruiting companies. We have to do a better job in getting people here. We have a lot of inbound talent that we're having to recruit because we don't have as much of that talent localized here. And that may just be by virtue of the growth trends. But having the governor kind of signal that this is a risk factor to economic growth is the fact that we trying to recruit jobs at 3,000, 4,000 people a clip, but there's no way to accommodate that growth from a housing standpoint, creates concern. And there's different tactics to that. That doesn't mean affordability. It just means build whatever you can as fast as you can, wherever you can. We see a very constrained market where the amount of equity you have to have into housing is increased. The interest rates are increasing. So it's just a more difficult product to get under, but so necessary. So trying to find a good fix to the housing solutions by also having it fit within localities and where their growth patterns are. But again, maybe like a good balance of that I could see as a major change agent. It's the other piece is like a little what cities are doing right now, which again, Canton Street's been blessed and Roswell's had that identity. I think a lot of other cities, whether it's a city center or mixed use development, I don't know if it's a sports arena, they're trying to create a sense of identity, a centralized place for community that people can be a part of. And we got to remember, like, these cities are massive. The 100,000 plus people, those are massive cities. They're not, 10 counties, maybe 11, 12 that are that size, and once you get past that, the other 100 and change are less than that. So
exactly.
You have large cities here that are as large as the biggest counties here in the state of Georgia. Again, I encourage everyone to take on that mentality a little bit. A little sense of ownership that you are in the big boy leagues and have to act like that. And again, it's great to see a lot of the cities trying to step up into that, or at least as best as they can. I mean, to me, those are the two things. Maybe the last, just an itch for me, is better brand identity.
Makes sense,
Again, Roswell's well known, maybe like Alpharetta Technology City, the South. But from, you were saying we sell Metro Atlanta. The only thing people know about Metro Atlanta is they flew through the airport.
That's right. And it could be a good experience or a bad experience, right?
Doesn't matter. I
want
you
to come Atlanta.
You got to come through Atlanta anyways. I just wish I think there's a lot more opportunity to lean into an authentic self. Nashville went there with their music. And Austin went there with their weirdness. Like,
everybody's got it.
Are we not culturally relevant enough to have some identity
Have our own identity,
Again, we've seen cities being able to take that on, but I think the region could benefit from a better and more interesting narrative than what's being sold out there.
Those are good notes.
Well, I want to thank you for being the doorkeeper of the entry to Fulton County and the state of Georgia, because you do an excellent job representing all of us and our community. So cheers to you. Thank you for that. Thanks for what you do. And, the sky's the limit. I mean, we've got so much opportunity. You and I know that. Andy knows that, of what the opportunities are, not just in Roswell, but for Metro Atlanta. And what's good for Metro Atlanta usually is good for all the cities in the region. So,
and you can just look around the area to see some have really taken advantage and leaned into it and benefited from.
So
I unfortunately live in one of those communities that hasn't taken advantage, but I'm working
on
it.
I'm working on that.
I'm already there.
Well, Samir, thank you for being on.
My pleasure.
It's a great day to do business in Roswell and Fulton County. As always, we appreciate you.
Thank you guys. Thanks.